Okay, today we are completing pages 15 and 16 in your notes. The title for these pages will be Triangle Postulates. Let's turn to page 16. Remember that page 15 for right now should be blank, and we're going to start our notes on the right-hand side on page 16 and give that page a title of Triangle Congruence Postulates. So you should have cut apart your yellow notes so that you have 6 flaps that you can open. And we're going to start with the first flap that says side, side, side. So go ahead and open that flap up. So we know that if 3 sides of one triangle are congruent to 3 sides of another triangle, then the triangles are congruent. And in this space where you have the 2 triangles, I would like you to write statements for each of the congruent corresponding parts. So for example, because this side has 1 mark and this side has 1 mark, we know that AB is congruent to DE. And make sure that you have your lines above AB and DE because those are segments. And we could continue, and we know that AC has 2 marks and DF have 2 marks. So we would say that line AC is congruent to line DF. And lastly, we know that CB and FE both have 3 marks. So we know that line CB is congruent to line FE. Okay, so let's go on to the next flap, which is the side angle side flap. Here we know that if 2 sides and the included angle, so what that means when it says included is that this angle A is between side AC and side AB. So it's included between the 2 sides, are congruent to 2 sides and the included angle of another triangle, then the triangles are congruent. So I would like you to write the 3 congruent parts pieces and then write a triangle congruent statement. So triangle ABC is congruent to, and then which triangle is it congruent to? All right, let's continue on. So the next flap is the angle side angle flap. So we know that if 2 angles, like angle A and angle B, and the included side, so the side between those 2 angles, are congruent to 2 angles and the included side of another triangle, then the triangles are congruent. So again, I would like you to fill out in this open space on the right the 3 congruent parts statements and the triangle congruent statements. You should have 4 statements written in that area. All right, next flap is the angle angle side flap. So if 2 angles and the non-included, so that means it's not between, this side is not between those 2 angles, of one triangle are congruent to 2 angles and the non-included side of another triangle, then the triangles are congruent. Okay. Again, make sure you write your 3 congruent statements and your triangle congruent statement. The last one, we have not talked about this one in class yet. We can only use the hypotenuse leg postulate if we have a right triangle.
Christina Campbell, please come to the main office. Christina Campbell, please come to the main office.
So if the hypotenuse, and that's the side across from the right angle, and a leg of a right triangle are congruent to the hypotenuse and a leg of a second right triangle, then the 2 triangles are congruent. Okay. So this is the only time, this is the only situation where we have side, side, angle, that the 2 triangles are congruent. The only time that works is if we actually have a right angle as our angle. All right, again, make sure that you fill out your 3 triangle congruent statements, your corresponding parts statements and your triangle congruent statement. All right, our last flap are the shortcuts that do not work. We cannot use these to prove triangles are congruent. So we know that angle, 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 and side, side, angle do not work to prove that triangles are congruent. Remember that we also talked about the fact that if we have just two pieces of information, then we don't have enough information to prove triangles are congruent. All right, on page 15, so let's move over to page 15. I would like you to put some examples on this page. So I would like you to either copy or cut out from one of our worksheets and paste on this page one example of each of the triangle postulates. And you can come with those on your own, or you can find examples from the work that we've done in class and copy those here.